Welcome to the Play Like a Girl podcast, the podcast where we're all about sharing the real stories of amazing women in sport and business, empowering you to lead to your full potential. All right, team, I am very thrilled to introduce you to tonight's guest, who I'm absolutely privileged to welcome here to the Play Like a Girl community tonight on a live podcast. Charlotte Thomas, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Now
It's a privilege.
We met a couple of months back, and as soon as we met, I thought, oh gosh, I would love to learn more about you and learn more about your story. And now I have the great privilege of inviting you here to do just that. So thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me. And I felt the same about you when we met a couple of months ago as well. So it goes both ways.
And I think even in that really short period of time that we've met, there's been interesting connections outside of what we knew that have formed. And we can get into that a little bit. It's such a small world, isn't it?
For sure. Yeah. I actually just remembered the second one that you mentioned to me a couple of weeks ago about my mentor.
Yeah.
My other mentor. I had forgotten about that.
Let's start there.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I was playing golf with a friend of mine who brought along a friend of hers.
Yeah.
And as we started talking, this person, she shared that she's involved with Cricket Australia and has been involved in sport for a long time, very passionate about it, and mentioned that she mentors a professional golfer. And I don't know if I asked your name straight away, and I said, oh, I'm interviewing a professional golfer in a couple of weeks' time. Her name's Charlotte, and I think she might have said, that's who I'm mentoring. And we thought, what a small world. That is crazy.
Crazy.
So that's through Minerva, right?
Yes, the Minerva Network.
Yeah. Would you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Yeah, it's an amazing organization. So I moved back to Australia full-time when I retired from playing full-time in September. And I played professional golf in the US for 7 years before that. And just recently retired. So I was kind of trying to figure out what to do with my life post-sport. And I literally just Googled like sport, retirement, Australia, Melbourne or something. And the Minerva Network popped up. And it's this amazing community organization run by Kate Argent. And she basically has created a mentorship program for current athletes, former athletes, aspiring athletes, and you can sort of get connected with someone in your field of interest, and they help you navigate the world after sport, during sport. And so, yeah, I was connected with Sarah Adam Gedge, and she's been absolutely amazing, like super helpful and informative and just supportive in the journey after sport, which has been pretty intimidating and massive learning curve and lots of new things to figure out. So, conversations. I mean, and it's through people like her that I meet people like you as well. So all of these connections that I've been able to create, a lot of them are because of Sarah. So funny that you guys met and on a golf course.
I know.
Which is
what
just
are the odds?
Full circle moment. I love it so much.
Totally. And I understand Sarah's only been playing for a short time, but she's a really impressive golfer. I'm not sure if you played a game with her.
I haven't, but I would love to, and I'm not surprised.
Yes.
She seems like a very determined woman. So yeah.
Definitely. Now you've shared a little bit with me about that sort of transition out of professional sport. Let's start there. So you mentioned you'd come back from the US you'd been playing there professionally for 7 years. Then you come back to Australia. You've since decided to retire.
Yeah.
Now, where did that leave you? What showed up for you in those moments?
Yeah, it was a big decision. It took a couple of years to really kind of navigate the timeline and how I wanted to do it and when I wanted to do it. But yeah, my sporting journey was an incredible one, and I'm super grateful for everything all the experiences that it gave me and the lessons it taught me and the people it allowed me to meet, places it allowed me to see. It was just such an amazing experience. But I sort of a couple of years ago, maybe COVID started it, I'm not really sure, but started thinking about what was next and having a little bit more stability and structure in my life. And so I decided to move to Melbourne, which is where my family live. I'm not from there. My accent is a little bit confused. At times Aussie, at times very English. So, but yeah, my family are here, and it's kind of more home than anywhere else. So it is where I have landed. And it's, where I've started this next chapter, and I'm actually working for the PGA of Australia at the moment. So stayed in the golf industry, which has been interesting as well, seeing it from a whole different perspective, and really opens your eyes to what goes on behind the scenes. I think as an athlete, you can be in your bubble a little bit and you don't realize how much there is to putting a golf tournament on, putting a sporting event on. So it's been fascinating to sort of learn and broaden, my understanding of the industry as a whole, I guess. That's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah. And so when you were deciding what that next step is going to be for you, I remember us talking and you weren't necessarily intent on it being within golf. You were sort of open to whatever that might be, but you found yourself in golf. Was there ever a time where you wanted to separate yourself from that?
Yeah, I think I was very open to opportunity, and I think I was very keen and intent on keeping an open mind when I was sort of trying to navigate this new adventure. And I think through the conversations that I had, I learned that I would be able to leverage my experience most effectively in the golf industry, especially to begin with, having literally never had a job outside of golf. I had never done anything. So it was always going to be a really, really big learning curve. And having the sort of general understanding as well as a bit of credibility in the industry as well, I think, and a bit more comfortable, I guess, sort of showing up in a 9-to-5 job on a Monday for the first time ever, at least knowing sort of what I'm talking about a little bit, felt like a good place to start. And the PGA have been amazing. They gave me an opportunity that they didn't have to. They took a chance and decided to, give me a go. And it's been really great. And they've all been super supportive. So I'm very grateful to them as well for sort of, taking a bit of a leap of faith on someone who they didn't have to and doesn't know much about the business world. So, it's been an interesting experience for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's great to you've landed somewhere that you feel like that's probably advantageous to bring, your experience into, and it is setting you up for success moving forward. When you had made that decision to retire, what were some of the thoughts or things that were going through your mind about what that next step was? If you're okay to go there, I want to understand, because we know from speaking to so many people how challenging that time can be from an identity piece or, a total change of lifestyle. Could you share sort of the contrast of that first few months of not knowing what was next as to where you are now?
Yeah, I think it's still a process, to be honest. There is a lot of emotion that is wrapped up in it. I was super lucky, and I think a little bit different to a lot of athletes, where the decision was made on my own terms. So it didn't come about because I had an injury or my performance went downhill. I actively kind of made the choice, and that was quite empowering in a lot of ways, but also made a lot of other emotions come up around, like, is this the right decision? Am I going to regret it one day? Am I going to regret it next week? Like, who knows? I just didn't know. And I think I still, to be honest, don't know. There's a lot of things that I'm loving about this new life that I'm living. But there's a lot that I still don't know. And I think this probably sounds like quite an intense emotion to have grappled with in this process, but it kind of feels like grief in a lot of ways. It feels like you've lost like a massive part, not only of your life, but of yourself as well. And so you kind of have to work through a lot of things that you don't realize that you're going to have to, I guess. But yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster and challenging at times, but also really rewarding. I think kind of proud of the decision that I made and kind of making it for me and making it for reasons that a lot of people don't get. A lot of people, especially on the outside, don't get. Who are looking in and looking at the glamour and the amazing life that you live as a professional athlete, which you do. It is incredible in so many ways, but it's also incredibly challenging in a lot of ways. And only you really know that, and only you really feel those emotions. So, kind of taking the leap and knowing that I would be okay doing something else and figuring out what was on the other side, not having anything lined up necessarily, was quite scary, but also really excited me. And I think the excitement was what made me realize it was the right decision. I would get really pumped about the idea of like having a spice rack and like, I don't know, just the most things that people would think are just the most basic, like day-to-day life things that you just don't get in life on the road, I guess. Meal prepping. I love meal prepping. All food related. There's a theme. But yeah. So yeah, no, it's been a roller coaster, but a fun one. I like roller coasters, so I'm here for it.
Cool, I'm here for it. So
yeah.
It sounds like there was just this real craving for stability or somewhat of a more normal life, and that sort of being on the road all the time or away from people that you loved, that became a greater priority, and some of those challenges maybe you weren't willing to sacrifice as much anymore, like your priorities maybe shifted.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think COVID brought that to light, as it did for a lot of people. I was here for a long time. I was in one place for longer than I had been in the last 10 years. And I was like, wow, this is nice. Like, this is good. I get why people like doing this, not getting on planes every week. But I also grew up all over the place. So that sense of like home, I've never really had, even on tour, even during my off season. I would come back to Australia, but it didn't feel like home. And I'm excited to make it feel like home, and it's already starting to feel like home. So that's amazing for me. I haven't had that for a long time. So yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the growing up period. So you mentioned you lived in different places or you moved around quite a lot. Could you share a little bit about that journey with us?
Yeah, I was born in the UK. My mum's a Kiwi, so dad's English. But when I was 13, we moved to Singapore, and I did high school in Singapore. And from there, I went to the US for university and played golf at the University of Washington in Seattle. But all of my brothers came to Melbourne for university. And because they did that, my parents ended up kind of making it our family base. And it's where I came for the off seasons. So for 3 months of every year for the last 10 years, kind of. So it really, it's where our family home is. It's where I spend Christmases and things like that. So when I made the decision to stop playing, it was the logical place to come. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then, so when, I know you've got a brother or brothers that
Three.
three brothers played rugby in early years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good memory. Well done.
Thank you. And then, so from that, so they grew up in a sporty family.
Very much so.
Did that drive a competitive nature in you?
Very much so. Yep.
Yeah. It was, got to match the boys at whatever they do.
Exactly. Yes. Still trying.
Yeah. Okay.
I
cool.
still beat them at golf. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Amazing. So when did sport start to look like it was going to become professional for you?
Probably made the decision to pursue it when I was 16. Like, that's when I really started thinking like, okay, maybe this is something that I can do as a job one day. But previous to that, and even when I sort of clocked that, I was still doing lots of other stuff. I was still playing other sports, and, you know, golf was a big part of my life, but it wasn't my entire life. And then I went to university in the US, and I did 4 years of college golf, amateur golf over there. And sort of the fire kept igniting and growing. And I was like, okay, yeah, I think. And I sort of was a very gradual progressor. I wasn't a crazy superstar at any stage of my career, really. I just like gradually kept improving. And I really, like, that was what motivated me, was that sense of like continuous growth and personal improvement, I guess. And and seeing how far I could get or what I could do. And so it kind of was the logical next step to make it my career and see what I could do with it. And yeah, so that's what I did.
That's what you did.
Yeah.
Is there an initial hook for you with golf that you recall?
Yeah, there were a few. There's the golf bug. The golf bug is a thing. Do you have
it?
it?
That's why I wondered if that's a thing for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm a mad woman about it unnecessarily because
Yeah.
I'm a very average golfer, but I wondered, is that a thing for most?
It's the most weirdly frustrating but also rewarding sport in the world. Like, you can go an entire day and be driven absolutely mad by this game that's supposed to be fun, and then you hit one shot at the end of it and you're like,
I'll try and
that's
repeat
why.
that for the rest of my life.
And I'm going to do that every time. And then it humbles you really quickly, and then you do it again and you're like, I'm going to do it every time again.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those sports where you get so much satisfaction and so much joy from not just the shots and hitting good shots, but the experiences you have on golf courses with friends and family and things. There's so much that's amazing about it. So I think I just loved, my whole family picked it up at the same time. I'm not from a golfing family at all. But we all it became our family thing and our activity, and we would get up so early and go and play golf basically before the sun rose, before school. We all got the bug at the same time. So that was cool. It was like such a fun passion project for all of us. So I guess that was the hook a little bit as well. It's just a fun family thing.
Yeah. I think sometimes that part isn't really spoken about that much. If you haven't played golf, that you don't really get taught that being out in nature is a beautiful thing on these beautiful courses. And then you get to spend 3 or 4 hours, depending on how well you hit them, with a group of people that maybe you don't get to spend that time with. That stuff you don't really speak about as much. You tend to focus on score or how'd you hit them, but what about all the other things that come with it that I think are part of the hook of the sport?
Yeah, it's quite cliche or something that's said so much about golf, but it is like, it's a sport for life. And it's a sport that you can do forever with anyone. So you can go out and play with your 6-year-old nephew, or you can go out and play with your 90-year-old grandpa. Like, it's just so cool. It brings so many generations together and walks of life. And yeah, I love that about it. And it doesn't matter if you've played once or you can't really go and play tennis with someone who's never picked up a tennis racket before, but you can go and play golf with someone who has. I don't know, just that freedom of, being able to play with anyone, anytime is really cool.
It is a very cool and unique thing. Yeah. I love that. So we've talked before we've talked about the life of a professional athlete, and I'm sure whenever people speak to you, they come and say, that's amazing, especially golf nuts. I mean, that must be, living the dream. I'm sure what gets glossed over a whole lot of things that they don't tell you about being a professional athlete and what it means to play at that level for an extended period of time. Is there some things that you could share with us about some of the things that you don't necessarily see about being a professional athlete?
Yeah, I think there's a lot. And I mean, there's the performance side of it, and I think the performance and the pressure piece of it can be quite wearing and stressful. But I think for me personally, it was the identity piece of it that was the toughest, both during and probably in retirement a little bit as well. In retirement, for my personal journey of like trying to figure out who I am without golf and not knowing who I was without golf when I was playing. So that probably having sort of your whole identity wrapped up in this one thing from the perspective of others, but also internally gets pretty exhausting, I think. And so whenever people ask, like, what advice would you give young sports people or aspiring athletes, things like that. I'm like, do so many different things. Just do more than just your sport, because you are more than your sport. And I think it's so easy to get wrapped up in ticking all the boxes. And I was such a perfectionist. And you have to be, to a certain extent, in order to succeed. But I think a lot of athletes find success if they also kind of have other interests and have other passions, and when they come off the court or the golf course or the, pitch, wherever you might be playing, you have something else that excites you as well. And so if you've had a bad day, it's not the end of the world. There's something else that you're like, that's all right, I'll go and do such and such. And I personally didn't do that enough when I was playing. And I think it was one of the reasons why I decided to retire, because it was something that I really wanted to explore. And I got to the point where I didn't feel like I could do both while playing. So I think that was a big challenge. And then there's kind of the classic, like travel. The travel's a grind. It's tiring. There's jet lag. There's hotels and suitcases. I lived out of a suitcase for 9 months of the year, hopping around from knocking on people's doors. I stayed with a lot of families, which was incredible, but exhausting because you're never in your own space. So yeah, there's sort of the internal battles and then the more obvious external ones. But yeah, it's true that the glamour and the people do see it as just this most amazing experience, and a lot of people don't understand why you would want to do anything else. But yeah, there's more to it than that, I think, in a lot of cases, and that's okay.
Yeah, which is probably why there are like 0.1% of people who actually play elite sport for their entire life, or for a period of time. There's a really small percentage of people who can do that for an extended period of time.
The golfers who play seniors tours, and oh my gosh, I have so much respect, because I did it for 7 years, which actually in the grand scheme of things for a professional golfer is not that long, because you can play for so long. And yeah, the people who have been out there for 20, 30 years, it's just absolutely incredible. I don't know how they do it, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm impressive. Looking for a golf metaphor internally, but I haven't got one. I'll come back to it. Anyway, I'll park that for now. Surely one will drop in a second.
I only played 7 holes. They've played like 72.
Yeah, okay, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. So at 16, you decided this is going to be something that I could look at doing professionally. And then you start moving into what is a professional circuit at that point. Could you talk us through that next stage of the journey?
Yeah. So I played college golf for 4 years, and then in golf you do something called qualifying school, which is kind of random as a name for something, but it's basically a golf tournament, and you're going and you're playing for your career, basically. So you're playing for your tour card.
No pressure.
No pressure. It's not a fun couple of weeks, but there's 3 stages as well, so it's a journey. But so I basically finished college and went straight to Q school. That's what we call it. And I got through first stage, second stage, third stage, and then I started. So I got a tour card, but it was on a development tour. So there's the LPGA is the main American tour. That's what everybody kind of aspires to play on. And then there's the little sister tour called, when I played the Symetra Tour, it's now called the Epson Tour. And that's where I started. And I played 2 years out there. And then you kind of graduate from there to the LPGA, which I did in my second year. And then played 5 years on the LPGA. So it's probably a lot of jargon, a lot of golf jargon and words that,
Oh, I'm fascinated. And are you traveling and playing against this sort of similar group of people often? Do you start to get to know the people that you're competing with?
Yeah. Traveling circus is what we call ourselves.
Yeah. It's 100. Would you socialise together?
Yeah,
What's that culture like?
Yeah. No, some of my best mates in the world were my colleagues and also my competitors, which was a really interesting dynamic. But a lot of them were people I played college golf with as well. So I kind of sort of went through it all together, which was really special. And yeah, once we got on the LPGA, everybody had a caddy as well. So 144 players every week, plus 144 caddies, plus all of the tour staff that you get to know. And it's the same people every week. So it's probably like 350 people that you are seeing week in, week out. And yeah, you build some really fun relationships, and it's people from all over the world, which is amazing. That's the amazing thing about women's golf. It is so global and international, and yeah, lots of different backgrounds and stories and cultures. And so yeah, it's fun. It's a cool group of gals. And guys, the caddies, yeah, a lot of guys out there too, yeah.
Have you got a favourite travel story or something that comes to mind that's a really fond memory or a funny memory you can share with us?
Gosh, an appropriate one.
No, not necessarily.
Oh gosh, there's so many. When I was playing on the development tour, we would drive everywhere. Like, it was all about cost cutting. We were balling on a budget. So we would jump. I had a Toyota RAV4, which is a good sized car, but we would jump in with 3 girls, 3 humongous suitcases, and 3 sets of golf clubs. And it was a tight fit. And we drive like 10 hours from Texas to Kansas or wherever we were going. It was like we were in the middle of America. And one time I was driving with my friend Lauren, and we stopped at a petrol station, and I was like, let's give Rory's my car's name, a car wash. So we went into the car wash, and I noticed a second into the car wash that the sunroof was open. So water just started pouring into poor Rory. But we got it on video. My friend got it on video, and it's classic.
Were you able to escape the car, or did you have to sit in there for the rest of the car wash?
We closed it, I think, during mid car wash, but there was some liquid incoming.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so that was a fun one. But yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. I feel like staying with people, like staying in billets, you always have just amazing stories and conversations with people who you otherwise would have no opportunity to meet. So there were some, interesting characters and conversations for sure over the course of, my time. But.
Yeah. And then talk to us about sort of staff that were really influential in your career, whether that's coaches, high performance, who were the people around you that you were really supportive and influential in your career?
Yeah, so my coach, who was my coach from the age of 13 when we moved to Singapore until I retired, was Craig. His name's Craig McLean, and he's an Australian from the Mornington Peninsula, so local Melburnian, but he was living in Singapore when we moved there. And my mum, there was like a gallery of the coaches at our local club, and my mum picked the best looking one and was like, that's going to be your golf coach. And she tells him all the time, she's like, that's the reason. So yeah, he's great. And we have just the most amazing relationship. His daughter actually is now pursuing professional golf. She's about to go to the US for college, and she wants to play professionally. So that's been amazing. I've known her since she was like 1 year old. So, and she just turned 18 last week. So, but yeah, so that he was an incredibly important person in my career. He was sort of the first person who really, really made me want to get better outside of myself. Like he was just always, he just encouraged me to improve and work hard, and sort of let me believe in myself. And I don't know, he was just an amazing coach. So I'm super grateful for him. And then I had an amazing team around me as well, like a strength and conditioning coach here in Melbourne who I work with in the off season, Scott Williams. He was incredible. He got my body good. I had amazing caddies in the US that were super supportive. And then, my family is just such a huge part of this whole journey as well. my older brother and my little brother were both really, really good golfers and pushed me to be better all the time. Like all I wanted to do was beat them, and they made it quite hard. So, and then my middle brother was inspiring in different ways, but not a very good golfer, but that's okay. He's good at other things. And then, yeah, mom and dad as well, who were just with me the whole way. So there's always sort of the background people. It's never just one person, you know, who gets there. It takes a village.
Yeah, the whole team.
The team.
Yeah. I imagine, especially when you're traveling and there's a whole range of different challenges coming up for you, that support team around you would be just so essential.
For sure. Yeah, me and my coach was in Australia when I was in the US, and we would do like film sessions on the range on Zoom. Like we would set up on a tripod and he'd be with me for like an hour, like trying to figure it out. And it was bloody 6 o'clock in the morning here and 8 o'clock at night in the US or whatever it was. Like time differences were not easy. So yeah, it was, it took a lot of commitment from a lot of people, I guess.
Yeah. I really want to ask more about the coach, because whenever you're talking about him or that relationship, there's kind of a smirk or a quirky look. So I'm curious, was he quirky in the way he went about it, or was there it's just a really fond relationship?
Yeah, no, he's like family. Like he's just a legend.
Yeah.
We always had so much fun playing together. He ran like our junior premier team at our course in Singapore, and he's one of the most competitive people you've ever met in your life. And so we would just play matches all the time. And I don't think I beat him until 4 years ago. Like he would just not let it happen ever. And it was so annoying. But he was so good at golf. And I think that's why I had so much respect for him as well, is because he had that innate ability to just turn it on, even though he didn't play. He played professionally for a while, but he didn't play and practice consistently like I was. And I was like, why can't I beat you? So I think that was really inspiring as well. And no, his wife and his other kid and his in-laws, like they're all just like a part of our family now. So it's just been a really nice relationship that, came about because my mom just was like, you're the guy.
That guy. Not sure about technical skills yet. We'll figure that out. But he looks
gosh, so funny. Yeah.
You mentioned that he has been someone who's been inspiring, and I imagine very motivating when he's continually sort of setting the bar for what you need to get in terms of performance. Have there been other people who you've been inspired by throughout your career, whether that's on the course or off the course?
Yeah, I would say a big one for me is my fellow colleagues and competitors, players who are also friends. I feel like we fed off each other a lot on tour, and I had a really amazing supportive group of girls that I miss a lot. But they just became, they were like my tour family. So I had my family back home, but when you were traveling all around the world, and none of us had partners or family traveling with us all the time, so we sort of just learned to lean on each other. And I guess coming with them through the ranks and then seeing them succeed was so inspiring for me to be like, okay, it kind of kept me going and kept me wanting to improve. And so I'd say that is a massive piece of it for me as well.
Yeah.
Fellow female athletes.
I love that you shared that piece. And I think whilst it sounds quite simple in the way that you're delivering it, that mentality of saying the people that are around me really inspire me to be better, rather than going, you could make that mean so many other things. There are a whole range of different thought processes you can have when there are a lot of people around you getting really successful results, or a variety of results. And what you take from that is, I'm going to use that to get better. I'm really inspired by them. Now I'm going to go and work on my own game. I think that's such a really productive way to think.
Yeah. And it was an interesting dynamic, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to beat them.
Yeah.
But you also really want them to do well. So like if you can't win, you kind of want them to win. And so it's like this quite amazing, supportive environment to be in that isn't a team, but it's kind of the closest thing you get to a team as a golfer. So I think as a golfer, it's so important to have a really strong crew on tour. And if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have stayed out for as long as I did, to be honest, because it really, one, made it more fun, and two, just made you feel like you were out there with people, like you weren't out there alone, you know, doing it alone. So, yeah, they were an incredibly important part of my life and my golf journey, I guess.
Yeah. Does that culture that you've just talked about in women's golf carry over into the men's golf?
I have no idea. I doubt it. Somehow. Not to stereotype, but I don't know. Actually, that might be unfair. I don't know the answer to your question, to be honest, so no comment.
Okay. All right. We'll stay away from that for now. I guess I do want to poke and prod a little bit in that area. I'm just curious if you felt that as a woman in golf or a female golfer, that you've been held in the same kind of standing or view as male golfers throughout your career.
Definitely not. I mean, I think female athletes across the board, there's not a female athlete in the world who is sort of held as not held, but seen to be as high a standard as the male counterpart. That's unfortunately the sad reality of being a female athlete. But I mean, the growth and improvement that we're seeing in that area is incredible and so exciting, and makes me very, very happy, because even the growth I've seen from, gosh, when I started playing golf, even from my first year on tour to when I retired, and now seeing what's happening with women's golf in the US is amazing. I think as a golfer, it's a good sport to be a part of from a financial standpoint, because there is opportunity to make a living doing it, which a lot of female athletes don't get the opportunity to do. So I guess I was very lucky in that respect, but there's still so long to go. And I mean, the prize point in golf, the prize gap in golf between men and women is absolutely insane. But I think the men are getting paid way too much, personally. So I think it's kind of like more of a meet in the middle kind of situation. I would feel incredibly uncomfortable almost getting paid as much as the men do. It's like kind of sickening money at this point.
Extraordinary numbers, aren't they?
Yeah. It's kind of, it's gross.
It's very excessive.
Yeah. So, and I don't like the current sort of, how everyth's, I don't know what the word is, I've blanked, but you know, the environment of golf at the moment, I guess. But yeah, it would be nice if there was just a little bit of balance.
Yeah. You mentioned year one on tour. Things have progressed since then. Could you give us a picture of what it was like in that first year versus what we've seen now in terms of growth for women's golf?
Yeah. So, for example, I'll throw some numbers just to give you some hard facts. Like I believe, and I don't want to be quoted, but I think it's close to these numbers, is when I was playing, our like maximum purse on the development tour was 200 grand. And now that's the minimum on the development tour. So even just that is massive. So those 200 grand events were huge for us when I was playing in my first year on tour. They were our like majors on the development tour. And now that's the minimum of what the girls are playing for week in, week out. So that's amazing growth. Same on the LPGA. There's been incredible growth in the prize funds, especially for the major championships and things like that. So, and some on par with men, which is amazing as well. So yeah, there's definitely growth happening. And I think there's obviously still a long way to go, and a long way to go in other sports as well. But it's nice to kind of see golf leading the way, and there's a lot of momentum building around women's sport at the moment, which is really exciting to see across the world. If you're looking at women's basketball, is so cool at the moment. Women's soccer is amazing. AFL here, cricket here, There's so many things that are happening in women's sport, which it's kind of, as a female athlete, you kind of are just like, I'm sure you have the same experience where it's just like, yes, finally, you're like, you're clocking, you're catching on. Welcome to the party. About time. But yeah, it is about time. And I hope that it just keeps, that momentum keeps building. And it will, because the more resources that are put into it, the better the sport gets. It just, the more resources you can put into showing these women's talents, but also their personalities and things like that. It's just, yeah, it's only gonna keep growing.
Can you imagine what women's sport is going to look like in 10 years' time? If we continue on this trajectory, that is a very exciting proposition.
Yes, I know. Exciting.
Wow. Do you think that you're grateful or glad that you didn't have a full glimpse of what the business of sport is like whilst you were playing?
Oh. To be honest, I actually wish I had known more from being in my role now. I wish I had known more, because it would have made me a lot more grateful for everything that goes on behind the scenes. I think I was grateful, but I don't think I was grateful enough, because there's a lot that goes on, and it's a lot more than sort of just the golf tournament itself. There's so much that goes into it, into growing the game, like from grassroots to professionals, so much more than just about the tour pros, I guess. And yeah, there's just so many amazing people that are working behind the scenes tirelessly to try and make your life better. And I wish I had sort of understood that a little bit more. You see the people that are on the ground doing the media work, and, the events team and the operations teams and things like that. But there's so many more as well. So yeah, no, I wish I had understood. I think it's good to understand and good to have an idea of what goes on behind the scenes.
Can't really know until you're in that environment.
Yeah,
and you to go, wow, there's so much has to happen for me to be able to stand here to play at a tournament or in a game of some description.
Should all have to do an internship or something.
This is actually what happens to enable you to do the thing that you do. Yeah, it's pretty eye-opening, isn't it?
For sure.
Awesome. Yeah. And so for the next 12 months, what's on the cards? What are you most looking forward to over the next 12 months?
I'm really excited to just keep getting settled. I think the community piece of it in Melbourne is a big thing for me. So I have a few mates, but I'm really excited to dive into different hobbies and experiences and try and build a really strong community here and make it more home than it already feels like. I'm hoping to get an apartment, which is very exciting. So I'm in the process of that. I'll keep learning on the job. It's my mum's 60th, so I'm going on holiday for that. There's a few things to look forward to, and it's all so new and things that I can kind of plan for that I couldn't plan for when I was playing. So, yeah, it's fun to be able to look ahead and have things on the horizon to look forward to, I guess, which is new for me, like planning long weekends and things like that. And my niece and nephew live in Sydney, so I go up and see them every now and then. But yeah, so just trying to figure out this whole new world and new life.
That is literally the thought that was going through my head. It is a whole new world.
Yes.
And now there's so many new experiences, possibilities, connections, all of the things. What an exciting time.
Yeah, it is very exciting.
Thank you so much for coming along, sharing your story with us and bringing us into your world over your lifespan so far and talking to us about all of the ins and outs and ups and downs of that. Yeah. And really excited to keep getting to know you and following your journey over the next 12 months and beyond. And in terms of that networking community, the Play Like a Girl community is certainly supportive, and we're really glad to have met you tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for everything you're doing. Play Like a Girl is awesome, and you're very inspiring as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming along. I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Good night.